So, hello. This is Call Sign Gojira, or Gojira for short. If you've ever seen me stream, you've seen me play this game. This is MechWarrior Online. This is the 12v12 PvP version of MechWarrior, and it's a modern iteration. If you've ever played MechWarrior 5 or MechWarrior 5 Clans, Mech Assault, MechWarrior 4, or HBS Battletech, these are all the same universe. This is just their 12v12 shooter version. Today I'm going to go over the very basics of the game, explain the HUD, and explain the different weapon systems kind of in a short, compact. I want to keep this video under maybe like 10 minutes. So we're going to start with your HUD, what you're looking at right now. In the center of your screen you have your crosshairs. The cross is your torso mounted weapons, so anything torso mounted will go there. The circle you can see at the top moving up and down are your arm mounted weapons. Anything in your arms can track that circle. Think of your mech like a walking tank where you can move and look in different directions at the same time. One of the big aspects of this game is if you look in the lower left, you can see the paper doll is rolling incoming damage. So even if you're being shot, you can twist, you can shake to try to avoid taking damage to one location. So also going back to your main display, in the middle of your screen is your mini-map that shows you enemy locations, your location relative to everything else. By default, it is B to bring up the entire map. If you can see the orange bar next to my speed on the left, not every mech has them, but some mechs are jump capable. That is how much fuel you have remaining. And then if you look on the right side, where that 0% is, that is your heat gauge. It is possible in this game to overheat and cook yourself. One thing I also forgot. You don't see it if I'm not locked on, but if you lock onto an enemy, you can see in the upper right the enemy's paper doll. That is where their damage locations are. You can see yet nobody shot this guy because we're in the training grounds, so he has no damage. Oh, well, I just took his arm off in one shot. That's not what I wanted to show. Let's try a leg. There are 3 ways to destroy a mech. The first one is to destroy the head and the cockpit.
Target destroyed.
The second one is to destroy the center torso, and the third one is to destroy both legs. Some mechs on the Innisphere side will have what is called an XL engine or an extra light engine. That engine spreads into their side torsos, so you can destroy it by killing its side torso. The other thing that a lot of players don't utilize, if you hit E, it brings up the command wheel.
Target spotted.
You can spot targets, you can say thank you, help, anything like that. But as far as reading your enemy's paper doll, we're going to shoot this catapult in the leg. So you see how it's yellow now? That is minor damage but open. Orange is critical damage. Orange is heavy damage, red is critical damage, and then this is just destroyed. So you can see I've taken out one leg. We'll take out his other leg.
Target destroyed.
Kills him. Mechs come in 3 main weight classes. The commando that you saw that we killed was a light mech. Those weigh from 20 to 35 tons. The Cicada, which we didn't fire at, is a medium mech. Those weigh from 40 to 55 tons. The Catapult that we just killed is a heavy mech. Those weigh from 60 to 75 tons.
Target acquired.
And then this Atlas is what's an assault mech, and he weighs from 80 to 100 tons. So watch. See how his leg is orange? Not damaged. Open. Destroyed. Torso, damaged. Damaged again. Heavier damage. Now it's open. You can see how it's orange. Critical damage.
Target destroyed.
Destroyed. So there's 9 different types of missile weapons in this game. They fall into 2 families, being lock-on weapons and then being dead-fire weapons. So your SRMs are short-range missiles, your MRMs are medium-range missiles, are dead-fire weapons. You have to aim them. ATMs, which are advanced tactical missiles, LRMs, which are long-range missiles, and Streak SRMs all require a target lock before they can fire. Well, a target lock to track their enemy. Streaks you cannot fire without a target lock. ATMs and LRMs you can dead fire. There's also a NARC, which is more of a support weapon. It doesn't do, it does 1 damage, but what this does is it sends out a signal for friendly units to lock onto. So for example, the MRM here I'm going to shoot, you can see is a stream of missiles. If you're looking on the lower right, you can see when I fire that red bar, that's your weapon cooldown. You cannot fire weapons until that, well, you cannot fire that weapon again until that cooldown goes away. Missile weapons and ballistic weapons also have ammunition. It is possible in this game to run out of ammunition in the middle of a fight, and then you're SOL. So SRMs and MRMs are kind of the same. They are deadfire, short-ish range missiles. MRMs go out a little bit longer, but the further you are away, the more they spread. So think of it, rather than like a modern single missile, it's a stream. Same with SRMs. Where everything will spread. Streak SRMs are kind of the same, but they lock on so every missile will hit. So you'll know you have a lock. You see that red circle appear? When that circle is red, you have a target lock. And then you know you hit your enemy if you see your crosshair turn red. The 3 main long-range options are LRMs, Thunderbolts, and ATMs. LRM is exactly what it sounds like. It's a group of long-range missiles. They do have a minimum firing range, I think, of 120 meters. So you can see when I get under that range, they do no damage, they just bounce off. The other option for long-range missiles are what's known as Thunderbolts, which rather than firing a bunch of small missiles, fires one large missile. So, energy weapons come in 4 basic types. You have standard, extended range, pulse, and then PPCs. Energy weapons are hit scan, so you have to keep tracking your enemy until it's destroyed. But you can start at an arm, move to a torso, keep going from there. So the standard large laser is a beam. The second option is a pulse laser. Shorter cooldown, shorter beam length. You still have to track your target. The third option is what's called an X-pulse laser, which is basically a constant firing as long as you hold that trigger down. The clans do not have X-pulse lasers. Instead, they have what's known as a beam laser, which is basically the same thing. The fourth option is a PPC. It stands for Particle Projection Cannon, and it's basically a lightning gun. PPCs come in extended range, heavy, light, and then snub. The clans only have access to the extended range and what's called a plasma cannon, which is their equivalent of a light PPC. PPCs also have a minimum range, unlike laser weapons. One thing that I did forget to mention earlier, if you see on the right hand side of the minimap that little bar that says 0, that is your heat bar. As you can see, I fire everything, I go up to 20%. It is very important to keep an eye on that bar. If you ever go to 100, your mech automatically shuts down. You can override this by hitting O by default. However, once you're above that 100%, you start taking internal damage. Just for argument's sake, let's see if I can So you can see my arms, my torso, everything is starting to take damage because I am overheating my mech. So I just blew myself up because I was overheating too much to prove a point. 5 types of different ballistic weapons, but they fall into 2 families. You either have autocannons or you have Gauss rifle style weapons. Autocannons come in 4 varieties from class 2, so class 2, class 5, class 10, and class 20, and 3 different types. You have standard autocannons firing a single shell. You have LBX autocannons firing a shotgun style shell, similar to birdshot. Then you have ultra autocannons, which fire twice. You also have rotary class 2 and class 5 autocannons, which are closer to kind of like the gun on the A10 Warthog. LBX autocannons, shotgun, low heat, pretty decent range, pretty quick firing time. Then you have the standard single shot autocannon, inverse to standard ballistic theories, well, laws. In this game, these smaller autocannons have longer range and have a faster cycle rate to make up for the lack of damage. So an AC2 and an AC5 will have longer range and faster cycle times than the class 10 and the class 20 autocannon because they do less damage overall. The 2 other weapons are the Gauss rifle, which comes in the standard, a light, a heavy for the inner sphere, and then the silver bullet, which is basically like a shotgun. And then the clans get access to what is known as an HA Gauss or a hyper assault Gauss, which rather than firing 1 shell, fires a stream of multiple smaller shells. Again, it is a charge weapon, so you do have to wait for it to fire or charge. But as you can see, it fires a stream of smaller rounds rather than firing a single round like the standard Gauss. So standard Gauss is 1 shot, Hag is multiple shots. You can only charge 2 Gauss style weapons at the same time, regardless of how many you have mounted. So rotary autocannons are only available to the inner sphere. They're basically a belt-fed machine gun. They have a charge-up time, but then a constant fire rate. The problem is that you have to stare at your target to keep the damage going. And then they also have a jam chance bar. So like if you saw how that yellow bar fills up,
Target destroyed.
once that bar turns red, there's a chance that they jam. They will unjam. It just takes a minute. Kind of like ultra auto cannons. One other thing that I forgot to talk about is your mech is a walking tank. Remember this. It is possible to twist side to side, up and down, left, right, roll incoming damage as much as you possibly can. One thing to remember though is that you never want to show your back to an enemy unless you absolutely have to, because you only usually have paper thin armor on your rear.